Welcome to the Creative Brew, helping you keep your creative juices brewing. We're giving out chunks of insight, motivation, and practicality for your creative journey. My next partner is Elevate Coffee Trading, and if you appreciate specialty coffee, enjoy outdoor adventure, and love helping elevate the lives of children around the world, then you're going to love Elevate Coffee Trading. Their mission is to extract hope through love, coffee, and adventures. There's free shipping in the United States, and every bag of coffee helps sponsor health and education for children in coffee producing countries and in areas of need in the United States. You can use promo code Elevate21 on your next order, and you can follow their journey on social media at Elevate Coffee Trading. Or you can visit online at elevatecoffeetrading.com, and let's start extracting hope together. And this episode is brought to you by Baba Coffee, smuggling good vibes. Baba roasts their coffee beans each week and only offers the freshest coffee. They have espressos, lattes, cappuccinos, pour over, or drip coffee. You can try their cold brew coffee, nitro cold brew, or bulletproof coffee, and boba milk teas. They also have a wide assortment of delicious food. I would suggest you try the avocado toast, mimosas, wine, or beer. On the weekends, you can check out some great music like the Soto Six and food like Eliza the Shelf and others over the weekend, every Friday and Saturday, beginning at 6 p.m. You can check out everything they got going on Facebook and Instagram at Baba Coffee. Today, we have an incredible episode with Emma Witz. She is the co-founder of Good Soil Theater in Cleveland, Tennessee, my hometown. We're going to be talking about life, creativity, entrepreneurship, choosing your heart. She provides creative tips and words of wisdom. If you get a chance, check out this episode. Let me know what you think. Please share, subscribe, share it out. And as always, be creative, stay inspired. Today we have Emma Witz. She is one of the co-founders of Good Soil Theater, a live arts theater in Cleveland, Tennessee. So it's my hometown. And me personally being able to get into the theater scene, especially out here, I find myself really respecting a lot of the things that go behind creating live art, live theater, and performances, and everything that goes on behind the stage, and just to put on a great performance. And I really feel like I've always grown up in the arts, but I do feel like it can be underappreciated, and just the joy of creating new worlds and or maybe retelling old stories for a new generation. I mean, I really feel like things like that. I really feel like it's needed, and especially with the rise of technology and everything else. I do feel like sometimes the arts can get get pushed to the side, and I really feel like it's needed now more than ever. So, but today we have Emma. I'll let her sort of share her story, her origin story, and how she got started and where she is now.
Yeah, hi. Yes, so my name is Emma Witz. I own Good Soil Theater Company. As previously mentioned, we're based in Cleveland, Tennessee, a small little town just right outside of Chattanooga, but growing every day. I'm actually originally from Atlanta, so grew up in the metro Atlanta area, surrounded by a lot of art, a lot of live theater opportunities, community theater, and the theater bug bit me young. I was in sixth grade and did my first theater production and was hooked from there on, more so on the acting side. So it was really a natural transition for when it was time to go to college to pursue a theater degree. Much to my parents' surprise and maybe discouragement. No one wants to hear that their kids getting a theater degree, but I convinced them and ended up starting at a different college in a more competitive classic musical theater program. And then I transferred to Lee University here in Cleveland to get a little more of a music centered focus. For anyone who's not familiar, Lee University here is known for their music program. So I wanted to take advantage of that. So studied music and theater at Lee and graduated in fall of 2020, which was a really interesting time to be graduating from college, specifically in the entertainment industry. So He graduated, was kind of like, what now? Nothing's open. I can't create things in the way that I'm used to creating them in close proximity with people and singing in people's faces. So, had a bit of an identity crisis graduating from college. And I decided, Cleveland isn't a bad place to be. I'll just get a house here, kind of hunker down till COVID passes. At the time, we thought it would be any day. And it ended up, we're still feeling the after effects of it, but ended up staying in Cleveland and went into the corporate world for 4 years. So I worked in corporate event planning and community development for 4 years, and spread my wings, learned a lot of amazing skills for networking and starting the business that I have now. But I really missed theater. I missed being creative. And I've always had an interest in entrepreneurship and being my own boss and forging my own path. So in June of last year, I turned in my notice at my corporate job and did something really crazy and quit and started a theater company in my small town where there is like very, very little theater. So left my job, took this huge leap of faith, starting this theater company, and we got our LLC at the end of June, and we mounted our first production in October. So really fast turnaround, especially because I literally started with $500, which is about enough to buy an LLC
Yeah.
and register your business.
Yep.
Yeah, and we did a lot of fundraising, a lot of reaching out to sponsorships and building that community support. And something that we found is that our community is really hungry for professional theater, which we are a professional theater. We pay all of our artists. So we were met with this incredible outpouring of support, ended up selling out our first show 2 weeks in advance with a wait list. And yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely nuts, but that was a huge success. And then from there, we've just been focusing on scaling up, finding more funding in order to be able to scale up and meet our community's need, and continue to get connected with other artists, because theater is such a group project. You have to know a lot of people and have a lot of different hands in the pot to create things. So that's like the long story long of who I am, what I do. Um, Actor, director, now business owner, and I wear pretty much every other hat for our company as well. So it's a lot.
Yeah. So what was the first performance?
It was a musical called Daddy Longlegs. It's not super well known, but it's a two-person musical. So it's two people on stage for 2.5 hours, and it's based on a classic novel by the same name. And it takes place in the turn of the century, kind of like Little Women, Anne of Green Gables vibes. It's a huge crowd pleaser. It's got a beautiful soundtrack with acoustic guitar, piano, and cello, and we had like the live musicians there playing right in the middle of the audience. So it was a really intimate and immersive experience.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so right now, so what's the now? I know I was looking at the website some. So you got midnight,
Midsummer Night's
yeah,
Dream.
Midsummer Night's
Yes.
Dream. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the next one coming up.
Yeah, so we're doing
Okay.
that in May, and we're taking it in the wild. We're gonna do a Shakespeare in the Park style in the heart of downtown Cleveland in First Street Square. So our last performance was in the back of an art gallery. Hetzel Art Gallery, of course, is, as you know, Quantal. But this production is going to be completely reinventing the wheel, because when you're doing theater outside, you essentially have to build a theater from scratch. You have to bring in the lights and the sound and the PA system and the set, and everything has to be portable because you can't leave things out in the rain and the elements. And then that show is going to have a cast of around 15 to 20. So a lot more people than our two-person musical. And we've expanded our team as well. So we hired in an outside director and costume designer, and our technical director, Laura, is doing the set. So it's a lot of hands in the pot and a lot of moving pieces, but it's going to be such a unique experience.
Yeah. So do you feel like being in the corporate space, and that can be a lot. That's a lot of moving pieces. Do you feel like being in that corporate space helped you out as far as managing all this? Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. It was like at the time I was like I mean, I tried to make it work for as long as I could as a creative person working behind a desk from 9 to 5, but at the time it felt like I was stepping away from my artistic practice, but in retrospect, I got such invaluable skills from being in those corporate spaces. They really pushed me to work as a group with people and stay organized. And of course, the whole networking piece is a huge muscle that you have to build. So it really was a massive blessing. And I don't know if I could have pulled this off if I didn't have those corporate skills to start off with. So if you are a creative person in a corporate field, play the long game. Like it's nothing is wasted.
yeah, that's good advice. I do tell a lot of creatives that the biggest thing is networking. Just speaking with a lot of the younger artists and creators, and they're trying to get into their own little niche, and they find themselves they got doing great work, doing awesome work, but they don't know anybody.
Yeah,
Sometimes you gotta have those soft skills. You got to be able to communicate and just reach out and connect, collaborate. Um, that's sometimes, I mean, that could be the name of the game. You get your,
mhm,
you definitely get your foot in various spaces once you get to know people and you create those relationships. But yeah, that's
exactly. And you never know, like one of those people that you work with could be a potential sponsor, or they could, be a fervent audience member.
yeah,
So you truly never know. And I always think it's important, even if you're not in a creative space, to introduce yourself as an artist and don't feel embarrassed or like a failure because you're working in a corporate space and you're also an artist. Like my favorite fun fact is that I'm a theater kid. So like even when I didn't own a theater company, I would always be like, "Hi, my name is Emma. I do this, but I'm also an actor." And people be like, "Oh, tell me more about that." Or "I used to do theater in high school. Like, what are you involved in?" And that's always interesting to people and in a lot of ways. And it's a great conversation starter too. So
yeah. It's definitely not for everyone. I mean, it's one of those like special people that's in the creative field. You're one of the courageous few that's actually made the jump to actually just pursue it. And there's a lot of talented people that I know that for whatever reason, obviously life happens, but for whatever reason they tend to sort of drown out their creative abilities to life, to responsibility, to obviously I'm not saying quit your job or anything, but sometimes you might have to be courageous enough to do that. Uh,
yeah, exactly. I mean, definitely make sure you have some savings or some side hustles, which is what I do to keep food on the table.
yeah,
But it's always going to be a leap of faith. And sometimes for a big payoff, you have to make a big jump like that. And luckily for us, it's paid off. Some days I'm like, what am I doing? This is insane. Some people don't get it. They think I'm crazy. They're like, why would you leave your job with your 401k and your insurance benefits and everything? And I'm like, well, I mean, I could have spent the rest of my life doing that in order to retire, or I could spend my entire life leading up to my retirement doing what I find most fulfilling and impactful for me rather than just living for me turning 65 and retiring with a 401k. So
yeah, yep.
it's all about, I mean, it's a personal decision, but for someone like me, I mean, it was absolutely the right move. I don't think I would have been able to devote the amount of time that I do to this project if I didn't have flexible hours. So yeah, it was a huge jump, but very worth it.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And especially that's something that I do find. Even I know, being originally from Cleveland, that was something before I left, that the arts and culture was, I mean, pretty much at zero. And now I've seen a revitalization with a lot of things that's going on there, and really trying to make a arts and cultural hub. Obviously, we're still trying to get support. I say we, but I still find myself, I'm still part of Cleveland. But
Absolutely.
I find myself, or even the creative community, or they're still trying to get support from obviously people from the outside, that they're like, the arts, like, why do we need it? Like for you, like, why do you feel like the arts are needed? Arts and culture, why do you
Yeah.
feel like it's needed?
Well, gosh, I mean, Cleveland is a very funky city. So we're right outside of Chattanooga, 45 minutes away. But we're not in the same county. We're in Bradley County, not Hamilton County. But we have grown enough to where we are no longer considered rural, even though there are parts of Cleveland that feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. We're growing a lot, and so we're actually considered suburban now. So we are in an awkward place where it's really hard to get arts funding out here because a lot of the grants that are more accessible for small businesses like mine need to be based in Hamilton County because they're from organizations that are based in Chattanooga. So we don't qualify for a lot of those grants that if we lived 10 or 20 minutes down the road, we would be able to get. But we also don't qualify for rural arts grants, even though our community is desperate for access to the arts. So that funding piece is really challenging. We rely a lot on local sponsorships and community support, like selling merch and doing smaller events and things to be able to fund what we do. But it's rarely ever enough. So it's like it's a total uphill battle, and that's all the more reason to not only educate our community on why it's important to bring arts and culture here into town instead of the several big cities that are surrounding us. But it's also important to explain to the larger areas, hey, like don't leave us behind. Like we have an awkward gap where we need resources because Athens, who is about 45 minutes north of us toward Knoxville, they actually have a lot more theater than what we're doing in Cleveland because they're considered rural. And then, of course, Chattanooga has several different theaters
Yeah.
that are doing great stuff, but they're in Chattanooga, so they're considered urban. So Cleveland's in that weird spot where we do get left behind because people are like, just drive to Athens or drive to Chattanooga. But we have our own culture here, our own history, our own interests that need to be reflected through the arts for our own community. Not saying you should not drive into Chattanooga. I absolutely love Chattanooga, but it's important to do stuff locally as well because not everyone can afford to drive to Chattanooga or has the resources. And there's artists here that are ready to work, ready to go. They just need a platform. So that's what we're trying to do. And I feel like I totally didn't answer your question and I went totally off the
Well, that
rails.
no,
But
that was probably a better conversation than
yes.
what I just asked. But no, I think I think you're right on that. I mean, I think and that's something I didn't realize. I didn't realize that it's sort of set based off of like urban or like what area you're in. That's something I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And yeah, Cleveland is in that weird little spot because it's definitely growing. And at the same time too, there's things that still needed. I did have that talk before with Hetzel Art Studios, and they have certain events going on, and yeah, they said it's just hard to get outside, like corporate sponsors to be willing to support the arts or support any kind of thing that's related to arts and culture and theater or anything like that.
Yeah,
Or
exactly. And one thing that our company is really big on, really, it's our central mission. And we're in the middle of rebranding our mission and vision statement to reflect this a little bit better. But our mission is to turn forgotten spaces into dynamic stages in Cleveland. So it's about theater, but it's more so about developing our own community and creating pockets of magic and special experiences in spaces that may have been forgotten, communities where more marginalized groups live that need some more foot traffic that way, and increasing access to people in our community that don't have arts right now. So we're all about using like public spaces, doing something we could only do in Cleveland because we're basing it off of what our community is and the cool parts of our community that people sleep on a little bit.
yeah,
So that, I mean, that in case in point is why arts are so important to us. You can say the things like, oh, it improves quality of life and, it helps make you more empathetic. We all know these things, but it's also a really powerful vehicle to be able to bring new life and enrich our culture in Cleveland.
yeah. I mean, I think, and even for the younger generation, I know my little I've got some little nieces and nephews, and they've been real big in the arts, and I generally when I go into town, I let them go by and check out Hetzel Art Studios and let them check out the art, and one of them wants to she's already proclaimed herself the queen of art, little
Yes.
little 6-year-old.
Oh,
And so it's just one of those like being able like having them exposed to art and to culture very early and
Yeah,
just seeing what's possible. I know for me, I was definitely exposed to to art. Both my uncle and my mom, they were really great artists and creators, and I got exposed really early to art.
that's
And
awesome.
and for me, it was just trying to figure out a way like what was the vehicle to be able for me to keep pursuing the arts even when I got out of college and how do I make it sustainable? That's the trick that they don't teach you in school, and that's something like I know
Hmm.
me personally, I would love to go back to school and teach that
Yeah.
because there's a lot of things they don't show you. Like they hey yes you're an incredible performer. You love theater, you love art, but okay, how do we make it work on a
Hmm.
day-to-day basis?
Hmm.
That's the trick. Uh,
Yep.
so I really wish they would have something in their curriculum geared towards that. Not necessarily marketing, but something that's almost like a little mix. Obviously, entrepreneurship, but I call it more of creative entrepreneurship because it's a little
Yeah.
bit different than just a straight out, business entrepreneur. Like there's a lot of things mixed in that I mean, I know even for me, I'm having to do 5 or 10, 5 to 10 different things at the same
Yep.
time. And I mean, it's a lot of stuff. And
Same.
I coach wrestling and stuff too. So it's like I'm throwing it's a lot of little things that's in my window on a day-to-day basis. But art for me, creativity, art, that's always at the core of everything that I do. But yeah, it's sometimes I'm like, golly, this is rough. And then sometimes
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, I'm glad I did it. So yeah, you get those those ups and downs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you really have to use your creative skills when you're wanting to do this professionally, and especially if you're in a small town that path is not forged for you and you're having to create your own path. I mean, gosh, that's incredibly hard. I don't know how I've made it this far, to be honest, other
Yeah,
than just doing my research and knowing people, as you said. But that's an art in and of itself, like living as an artist and putting food on the table right now where eggs are $6 a dozen. It's a whole journey, and you have to be flexible and scrappy. It has to be worth it to you, to be honest, because if you want to just keep cruising along with your 9 to 5 job, I wish I could have. I wish I could have made it work because it was so nice. But for some of us creatives, it's like just there's no other option. You have to do something creative. You have to be an artist. So
yeah.
yeah,
It's
I
not.
mean,
Yeah, that's
it's a challenge.
yeah. And that 9 to 5, and like I said, no, I like if that's you, I mean, that's great. I definitely want you to figure out ways of staying, supporting yourself. But I mean, from the creative side, from the artistic side, and people that's wanting to pursue their creative gifts and pursuits. It's not like I said, it's not built for everyone. You just have to figure out ways of like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta have to figure out ways of making this work. And obviously, you try to pull all the skills that you've learned in order to make it work. Even with you being in the corporate
Mhm.
field, being able to pull all the different things needed. And sometimes I'm sure there was times you didn't want to be there, but all that stuff was necessary in order for good
Mhm.
soil to even be born. So
Yeah, I mean, it's like both paths are equally hard. It's just which challenges are you more willing to face? Are you
mm,
willing to face maybe working 7 days a week around the clock to make your creative pursuits work? If that feels more worth it to you than sitting at a desk doing something you're not as passionate about, then go do it. But if you're like, I can make this work after hours, then absolutely stay in that 9 to 5 grind. I mean, that's a completely valid option if that feels like it works better with your lifestyle. But it's like choose your hard.
yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
As a creative entrepreneur, do you feel? I know for me, I'm always working out, training, and I think for me that's a healthy balance or a healthy release for me. Like maybe I'm there's things I'm stressing about with my creative entrepreneurial pursuits. For you, do you have a thing that you do like maybe just to get away or maybe to decompress? Not necessarily get away, but something where you can decompress and sort of reset. Obviously, being a co-founder, you deal with a lot of things. What's that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm connected with a few different entrepreneurs here in town, and having people who are in that similar stage of life to me is really helpful. Just to be able to vent with someone that gets it and just say, like, hey, like, I'm really going through it. I don't know why I did this. And then be like, just keep going is great. And they keep you accountable. So having those comrades that are, in it with you is extremely helpful. Um, I have a husband and some great friends here in town that also keep me grounded too, because when you're with people, you aren't going to necessarily always be talking about work. So pursuing things that take your mind off of it, or even just doing other creative pursuits that have nothing to do with the thing you're trying to make money off of. I really like crochet. I like house projects and random crafts from Michael's. I mean, stuff like that recharges me.
I
Um,
get in trouble at Michael's.
oh yeah.
I
It's a dangerous place for me. I'm like, oh, the little gem things and the paint by numbers.
yeah
Oh, it's so
yeah
fun.
I tell myself I'm going for one thing at Michael's. I
Yeah.
end up with markers and pencils and everything else.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, going to the gym is great too, like getting movement in if your artistic practice is a little more sedentary. That's so important to put your health and well-being first. And that's something I'm learning every day. Like the first probably 3 months after I left my job and went to do this full time, it was such a struggle to make it to the gym, eat healthy, get sleep, because everything just feels like it's second to whatever you're working on. But that kind of stuff gives you the longevity to continue to pursue it so you don't burn out. I mean, us entrepreneurs are always like balancing on that edge of burnout and trying to keep ourselves
Yeah.
upright. So anything I can do to put a deposit into my mental health bank is great. Therapy is great too. I mean, venting to friends who are willing to hear you vent. Don't unload on your friends too much because they don't really care. Like they care about
Yeah.
you, but they don't care about the intricacies of your business. Like they care about supporting you. So
Yeah.
yeah, all those little things really do add up, and I'm not perfect. I have good days and bad days. I have days where I'm sitting at my laptop for 9 hours, and I have days where my balance feels really great and I feel really excited about what I'm working on. So it's a roller coaster, and even on those bad days, just knowing that it'll pass and trusting in the journey, things are going to work out in the end. That's sometimes what you have to do too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll be sure on the live stream, I'll put the donate link from the website. I'll be sure to put
Yeah,
that
yeah,
on there so people
absolutely. Yeah,
so
all of
my
our we actually have a fiscal sponsorship through Arts and Business Council of Greater Nashville.
okay.
So any donations made to us through them are tax deductible. So you guys could be giving your money to the government or you could give it to us.
Okay.
Just saying.
So what's
Just
the
saying.
so is that from the website or is that a separate I didn't know if that's a separate link.
Yeah,
For
I'll set you up with the link to include.
okay.
But it's through Arts and Business Council of Greater Nashville.
Okay, good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
So right now, what inspires you on just any day you know you're getting up and you're figuring out ways of building good soil, or just life in general. Like what inspires you right now?
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna sound cliche maybe, but our community inspires me every single day. Just walking around downtown Cleveland, I truly love the city so much. So just walking around, seeing those unactivated spaces and how we could use theater to bring them to life. I have endless ideas, like way too many. And then also collaborating with local businesses who are able to combine what they're passionate about with what we're passionate about is really cool as well. For A Midsummer Night's Dream, we're actually collaborating with Ruddle's Bread and Book, which is a bakery and bookstore in downtown Cleveland. And so they're completely redoing their shop into A Midsummer Night's Dream theme so that people can walk in and out of there and get concessions during the show. So we just met with them yesterday and I feel so inspired just based off of their ideas and getting to meet other business owners who are like digging what we're doing is fantastic too. So I mean just making those connections. The times I feel the least inspired are when I feel isolated and I've been sitting at my desk too long and I haven't talked to people And the beauty of theater is it's one of the only art forms that is collaborative. Like you literally can't do it alone. You have to have not only multiple people on the stage, but multiple people backstage to create something together. So you can never take full credit for a show because it's like at least five people's work that's blended together to make this beautiful product. So yeah, I mean community in general, but our community specifically.
That's cool. That's a great collaboration. I mean, that's something that I think more businesses, not even just any kind of business in general, like if they want to find ways of collaborating or trying to collaborate with the arts or even with you in specific, like, hey, how do we collaborate? How do we partner up?
Mhm.
I think more businesses need to be, especially now, they really need to figure out ways of being more innovative, and really, if you want to give back, if you say you want to give back to the community, this is an awesome way to do it. Like figure out ways
Yeah.
of collaborating with your local artists, local musicians, local
And that
sales.
you don't have to have money
Yeah,
to support. You can give your platform, you can share your audience. And that's a lot of what Ruddles is doing is, sharing with their customers what we're doing. So if they want to experience something unique at Ruddles, they're also going to see our show and vice versa. If anyone wants to come see our show, they'll get to experience Ruddles in a new way. So I mean that's priceless. I absolutely love it.
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So creative tips. What are some creative tips? A creative tip or tips that you can provide for our audience?
Gosh, I mean, that's such a broad question. Um, I think collaboration, going back to that, like being around other creative people and bouncing off ideas with each other. I'm a huge external processor, so I have to like talk through things with people to get my brain moving. So taking someone out to coffee who's in a different creative practice than you and talking about what you're doing and them giving you ideas and you giving them ideas is a really great way to get inspired, because they may see blind spots in what you're doing or they may have an idea that you never even thought of. So that's really great. And then of course taking time for yourself, taking care of yourself, getting that rest and stepping away. I'm in the process of figuring out a weekend for myself, like at least one day a week where I don't do anything, which is so difficult.
Good luck. Yeah.
um it's really hard if you're on a freelance schedule. But that always helps too, just like unplugging, coming back the next day and feeling refreshed and excited about what you're working on. Because if you aren't excited about it, who's going to be? Like, if you don't believe in what you're doing, no one else is going to. You have to be your biggest advocate, your biggest cheerleader. And if you're excited about it, other people will be too, because they'll see the intention behind it and the person behind it. That's such a huge thing nowadays too, is people don't want to just support a business, they want to support the person behind the business.
Yeah, those awesome tips. Awesome tips. If you had to go back and you had a chance to meet with your younger self, the younger kid, younger Emma, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up always wanting to be an actress, and I do a lot of acting now, but I do a lot of other stuff too, directing and producing and owning my company. And I think I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what casting directors or teachers wanted me to be instead of being what I was best at. So I wish I would have spent less time trying to form myself into a box of what I thought other people wanted and spent a lot more time thinking about the things that I do better than anyone else in developing those interests and things. And also like it's okay to like things and not like things. Like it's okay to not want to move to New York. For the longest time, I was like, I have to move to New York to be an actor and blah, blah, blah. Well, joke's on me. I live in Cleveland, Tennessee now. um, so like just being more curious about like your preferences and what you like, what excites you, and not feeling like you have to be like everyone else and fit in a box to be successful. Because Lord knows, I never thought I would be living in a small town directing and owning my own theater company and being behind the scenes. I always wanted to be on the stage, which I still like to do, but I also like being behind the scenes too. So yeah, I mean, that's my biggest lesson I'm learning right now. I still have a lot to learn for sure.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, you grow where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's always funny. You got these plans, and you're like, this is where I want to be at, and now where you are in your life is like, hey, this is where you are, and you grow from there. And who knows? You just never know.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe you do become that. You get that opportunity to be that actress. On a main stage in New York or something like that.
Yeah.
You
And
just
like
never
your
know.
timeline is your own. Like you
Yeah,
don't have to like just stay in your own lane, keep your head down, focused on what you're doing, and don't look at the other people around you because everyone's journey is different. And what works for one person is probably not going to work for you because you are your own person. So no need to think you have to do something by a certain timeline. I mean, Dolly Parton is out there killing it and she's 79 years old.
that
It's, I
that's
mean,
yeah, that's the truth. Yeah,
life is long.
yeah,
Life really is long. You have plenty of time to do
yeah.
all the things you want to do.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. So right now, how can people get in touch with Good Soil Theater? Best way to connect with you? Maybe you maybe pre-orders or tickets for the new performance coming up. What's the best way to
Yeah.
get in contact with
Yeah. So our most active social media platform is Instagram. So we're Good Soil Theater Co. on Instagram. That's soil like dirt and theater with an RE at the end. And then we're on Facebook, Good Soil Theater Co. Pretty much just auto post everything from Instagram on there. So whichever you'd prefer or both. And then we have a website. It's goodsoiltheaterco.com. And tickets should be on sale at the beginning of April. So if you're in Cleveland and want to come, or if you're outside of Cleveland and want to support local tourism and drive on in, the performances are May 30th, 31st, and June 1st, 5th, 7th, and 8th in First Street Square in Cleveland. So it's going to be really cool. It's
Yeah,
like
that's
it'll be like you can't experience this anywhere else.
yeah. I know. Like I said, I know I've been in Cleveland, and definitely there's a lot of unactivated spaces. But if me processing it in my brain, if like having a live theater performance, like that's gonna be awesome. And there's a lot of areas to be able to do things like that. But I think they're gonna be in for a treat.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
I sure think so. I think it's going to be awesome, and the community is buzzing about it. So we should have an awesome turnout.
That's great. That's great. Well, hey, this has been another great episode. Thank you, Emma, for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank
Put this chat.
you.
I will put for people that's listening to this live stream. I'll put the website for Good Soil Theater and get a chance to check them out. I'm a really huge advocate for the arts, so please support your arts and culture wherever you are, not only in Cleveland. And I'll give a quick shout out to Cleveland, but also everywhere. Find ways of supporting the arts, supporting culture, support your
Go to
local
your local
musicians.
theater productions.
Yeah, yeah, to support them. This is their their life. This is something that I really feel like for a lot of actors and performers, like this is something that's God given. This is something that they're born with, and they get a chance of sharing that to others. Support them somehow. If you get a chance, support Good Soil Theater. Post out what they're doing on Instagram, on social media. Get a chance, buy a ticket, check it out, see what they're doing. So that's my spiel. That's my arts advocacy spiel there.
Woo!
But a quick shout out to my sponsors for this episode. First of all, Baba Coffee, one of my coffee sponsors that's based out here in Carlsbad, California. Smuggling good vibes and good coffee. They've got live music and food over the weekend. So if you're out here on the West Coast, be sure to check them out at Baba Coffee. Go to babacoffee.com, and they're on Instagram at Baba Coffee. And then Elevate Coffee Trading, another coffee sponsor of mine based in the Dallas, Texas area, extracting hope with every drop. Many of their proceeds go to helping coffee producing countries like Guatemala and in areas of need in Dallas, Texas. And they've been a great partner of mine for some years now, and actually helped do some branding and everything for that coffee brand. So go check out Elevate Coffee Trading, and check out their mission and vision. And then my last one is my art sponsor. It's Good Soil Theater. It's a It is Studio Ace Arts that's actually based out here in Oceanside, California, and they provide workshops, art classes, and events for ages for kids all the way up to adults. They actually have a partners paint and sip going on today for Valentine's Day. But if you're out here in the Oceanside area, please go by, check it out, support the arts. If you want to support this episode with Emma, as well as future episodes, go to www.buymeacoffee.com/the creative brew. And for the price of a cup of coffee, you can help support this episode with Good Soil Theater, as well as future episodes. So everything helps, and it helps to provide a platform for, incredible people like Emma, as well as other artists and creators and musicians that's doing their thing. So once again, Emma, thank you for coming on. And
thank you for having us.
Hey, not a problem. Glad to support.
Awesome.
So this is the Creative Brew. Be creative, stay inspired.
All I know is hard work, really nothing else. I resort to smoking weed, yo, cause nothing helps. Called to hold me up, told them loot the sample up. We gotta come together now, cause I had enough. The time is now, there'll never be another one. It's the SOUNDCLOUD.